So today the topic is about the boost sales with AI using speech analytics. The technology is coming from Datacon. The speaker, our speaker here today is Stan. He's senior account manager from Datacon, yeah, which offers these call tracking and speech analytics capability. Yeah. So let me just run through the slides. Yeah. So a brief introduction about Immacity. We were incorporated in 2016. We have 21 around there adjunct trainers. We have trained over like 6,000 learners so far. Our courses are WSQ accredited, meaning is well the Singapore government approved. Course fees are SkillsFuture credits eligible and also NTUC UTEP eligible. NTUC, yeah. Okay. So you can use your SkillsFuture credits to pay for partial, if not all of the course fees. Yeah, so we regularly hold webinars like this every maybe 3-4 weeks, a month or so. Yeah, so we regularly hold webinars or maybe workshops. We have held webinars with Telecom before, Amazon, NUS, Shopmatic, Safra, the property agencies like ERA and Haster. Yeah, so um, I'll pass over the mic to Stan. He's the senior account manager from Telecom. He has over 35 years, yeah, experience helping businesses optimize their marketing, sales, customer service. Today, the emphasis will be on speech analytics. Yeah. So yeah, I'll pass over the mic to Stan, and he will describe to you more about what this speech analytics can do for your business. Yeah, over to you, Stan.
Thanks very much, Eng, and thank you for the opportunity to present to our audience today. And hello, everyone. It's nice to meet you online. So yeah, and thanks for the introduction. I'll just share my screen. I've got quite a fair bit of interesting things to show you today, and we'll have a question and answer session towards the end as well. So yeah, feel free to take some notes and ask any questions that you might have at the end. Can you see my screen there? Okay.
Yeah. Can.
Okay. Yeah. So as Eng's saying, today's topic's about how can we help? How can AI help boost sales? And we're talking specifically about speech analytics and call tracking, and solutions to improve marketing, return on investment, improve sales and conversions, and to improve customer service as well. So as I say, I'll talk for probably about 45 minutes. There is a fair bit to cover there. I hope you find it interesting, and we'll have that Q&A session at the end. So as Eng was touching on, inbound phone calls are really crucial for sales and customer service, especially for consumers who are considering high-value transactions or healthcare, housing, and education, for example. I mention those particular sectors because I know some of our audience are from those sectors, and it's really relevant. Consumers often, when it comes to purchasing high-value items such as insurance or loans or travel, for example, or when it comes to healthcare, housing, and education, they'll have questions that they need answers to. They might go to the internet and search for answers, but as part of their decision-making process and resolving any concerns they may have, they inevitably want to make a phone call. So, nowadays we like to think that it's all about internet and everything happens online, but there's a lot that happens offline as well with people making those phone calls. And it's really important to be able to understand what that customer's journey is from the online space to the offline phone call, and how they're interacting with customers, like businesses or organizations. So in this webinar, we're going to look at how you can use AI to analyze your phone calls to boost sales and improve the customer service, combining speech analytics and call tracking. Analyzing your phone calls can help to improve your marketing ROI, as I'll show. can help uncover new keywords for digital marketing for SEO and SEM. Can actually help customers discover ways to improve their sales pitch. So when they're talking to consumers, it's all about helping to increase the sales pitch and increase conversions. It can also help improve the performance of the sales staff. Analysing phone calls can also, but is also obviously important to help train and improve customer service. So really, analysing calls can help achieve these things. It can also help you identify operational issues such as capacity by day, time, or store, for example. I think a really good example there is we have a customer who's got over 300 stores across Australia, which is a big country. They specialise in tyres, and we can actually see by analysing their calls with the mix of call tracking and speech analytics where they have stores that are particularly good at providing service, and then maybe some stores that have some capacity issues, and we can pick that up and help identify those stores that can improve their operations thanks to being able to analyse phone calls. Quick bit about me. I'm a senior account manager and a product manager for speech analytics in Delacon. Delacon is a leading international provider of call tracking and speech analytics, as well as call management, which is the routing of phone calls around the world. And we're providing that for some very large enterprises, digital marketing agencies and their end clients, as well as governments. I'm based in Sydney, Australia. I've also enjoyed working with agencies in Singapore. I've been to Singapore a couple of times myself and always enjoy that. I've got over 35 years experience helping optimize marketing, sales and customer service with technically innovative solutions. My background is in Australia's top science organisation. I've been in software development, project management, a bit of product management, technical sales consultant, account management for various companies. What's really relevant, I think, is I love data analytics. I love visualizing data. I love giving actionable insights that can benefit organizations and their customers. And that's really what call tracking speech analytics is about as well. So I've been here for 7 years now and I'm loving it. As a hobby, I actually play around with data and I like getting into graphics as well. All of this was done in Excel, believe it or not, 3D graphics, animated graphics. Down the bottom there, a thing called a Mandelbrot set, which is a mathematical formula. But I've had Excel actually produce that graph. When it comes to purchasing a car, I've even used data to get the best. I don't really need a car. Sometimes I like to drive around some music gear. So the question was, could I get a good secondhand car? And what I did was actually I plotted ads for cars, how many kilometers they've done, what they cost, the different brands, and ended up getting a very good car. That's for little money, but excellent car. So that's a bit of data there. When it comes to work, you may have heard of an IVR, which is an interactive voice response system. So when you ring up a company and it says press 1 for sales or 2 for service, for example. Here's one of our customers who is in the car industry, providing service and repairs, sales and rentals, equipment trials, various services they provide. And when consumers ring up, they can select any one of those options. Our system is actually able to capture the options they're selecting, and we can start to report on that. We can also push those results through to the Google Marketing Platform as well, which can help customers optimize their marketing towards sales, for example. Without going into the detailed data here, this is an example where we used call recording and speech analytics for 200 retail stores, where inbound phone calls are an important lead source. We had over 409,000 phone calls, which speech analytics categorized as sales leads. And we were able to actually use speech analytics to determine whether the caller was concerned about cost. And we could see as the caller's concern about cost increased, the conversion rates fell, as you'd expect. But what we could show also was using the mix of call tracking and speech analytics, we could show which stores were best or worst at then converting those callers and needed sales training. So we also integrated with their point of sale system, so we could say whether there was actually a conversion, but also identify which stores were experiencing callers concerned about cost and not doing so well at converting them. And so that enabled those stores to then be identified and to receive more training to help improve their conversions. So that's an example of sort of things I like to do and what you can achieve with call tracking and speech analytics. Quickly about Delacon, we've been around for over 25 years. Our head office is in Australia. We've got agents around the world. We've got offices throughout Southeast Asia into America now. We've actually got a data center in Singapore. We've got a strategic alliance with Optus here in Australia, which is owned by Singtel. I'm sure you've all heard of Singtel. So we enjoy a good relationship. That's an example of sort of alliances we have. We provide the call tracking, speech analytics, and call management all on the same cloud-based Delacon platform. And we can provide that in conjunction with telephone services such as toll-free numbers and local numbers, etc., which are also competitively priced. It's also securely hosted and scalable, and we use Tier 1 network and hosting infrastructure. We're ISO 27001 certified, which is the international standard for information security. We also provide consultancy and system integration services. So as I say, we've been around since 1996. We've got we enjoy some good strategic alliances with telephony carriers like Optus, Singtel, for example, and as well as Google and Adobe for their marketing platforms, Salesforce for their CRM, for example. We enjoy those alliances. In Singapore, we're providing services for hundreds of end clients there via digital marketing agencies. As I mentioned, we've got a data center in Singapore as well. You may not recognize these logos. I guess you'd recognize, well, I've mentioned Optus, Bridgestone. These are sort of organizations using our services. What they've got in common is inbound phone calls are an important lead source for them, or they're also an important part of customer service. So we've got, for example, motor associations here in Australia with a few million members there using our services. We've got various banks who like to use call tracking for optimizing their marketing when it comes to home loans, for example. Various insurance providers, some large franchises, some smaller franchises. Basically, again, anyone where inbound calls are important. In Singapore itself, some examples of end customers are typically a lot of medical over there. So you can imagine a lot of phone calls around there, but also things like car grooming. We've got some specialist end customers like ceramic coating, ceiling fans, bus transportation, windows, doors, shelvings, etc. So examples of end customers. So today what I want to talk about is AI solutions to improve marketing ROI, sales, and customer service. As I say, inbound calls are an important lead source and a communication channel for sales and service, especially for consumers considering those high-value transactions and wanting quick answers. And it's often said you can't improve what you can't measure. So really being able to analyze calls with call tracking and speech analytics is enabling you to take that step where you're measuring performance in terms of those inbound calls. And when you can measure something, you're then in a position to optimize the performance. So the combination of call tracking integrated with MarTech platforms like Google and Adobe to optimize marketing ROI, sitting alongside speech analytics with call recording, which can provide valuable customer and operational insights, and sitting alongside call management to route calls and ensure the calls are never missed. So that's enabling you to track the entire customer's journey to be able to measure performance, optimize marketing ROI, sales and customer service, track the online and to offline marketing channels, to offline phone calls, and then gain valuable customer and operational insights. So, for example, we can track the performance of paid search campaigns by being integrated with the Google Marketing Platform, for example. We know when a phone call's come in with the call tracking. We're able to pick up the session data. We're able to say which paid search campaigns, which paid search words are resulting in those phone calls. We can identify the source. So, for example, if a consumer comes to a website from, say, a social media campaign, comes to the website and then makes a phone call, we can actually identify that social media was the source of that phone call and what was the actual campaign that resulted in the phone call. And then we can combine that with speech analytics to identify and segment the sales leads versus other calls. So, we have customers who might receive 70% of their phone calls might be sales related. The other 30% might be anything. It could be, someone ringing up, a partner ringing up to say when's their husband going to be home for dinner, for example. Well, you don't want to be counting those calls when it comes to measuring performance. So, speech analytics can do things like segmenting sales leads versus all the other calls that might happen. It could be anything. It could be a supplier ringing up a store, for example, and we're able to filter that out. We can also, using speech analytics, identify the sales leads and push those results through to the Google Analytics, which enables you to optimize your marketing ROI, because within Google Analytics, you're able to identify which campaigns, paid search words, etc., are more or less effective in driving sales leads as identified with speech analytics. The whole process is automated. So I want to quickly talk about call tracking, and then I'll talk about the speech analytics in more detail. So the call tracking measures performance of marketing in terms of online or offline marketing that first capture the consumer's attention to the offline phone calls. It helps identify the marketing channels, campaigns, ad copy, paid search words, web sources, web pages, etc., that perform best or worse to optimize marketing ROI. It's achieved with one line of JavaScript that goes on a web page that displays a tracking phone number and captures the corresponding session data when the visitor on the website's there. We can also place tracking phone numbers in Google Ads. So for Google Call Extensions, for example, where we can actually track the phone calls from that and also the paid search words associated with those phone calls. We can track display ads, Google Business Profile. You can put tracking numbers in social media like Meta, for example. We can also push the results back into Meta or back into Bing or back into Google or Microsoft Ads, I should say. So whoever's managing, say, the Meta account or the Microsoft Ads account can actually see how those their campaigns are performing in terms of phone calls, because we're pushing those phone calls back into those systems. We can also track EDM, SMS, print, etc. This system shows at a high level how it works. So on the left-hand side, you could have tracking numbers on various online and offline channels. Consumer makes a phone call. It comes into our data center. Our data center is then integrated with Salesforce, Google, Adobe. These are just some examples of the integrations. TapClicks is a really good example. It's a good solution for digital marketing agencies who are needing to manage a lot of end clients. So we can integrate with those platforms. So the phone call comes into our data center. You can see there in the middle, in the cloud. And then we transfer the call to the final termination point, which might be a call center, or it could be a mobile phone. If the end customer is a tradesperson, like a plumber or an electrician, we can transfer the call through to them, and we can track the actual session data that resulted in that phone call and push the results back into Google and Adobe marketing platforms to optimize marketing. So, as I say, whether it's online, websites, search, display ads, social media, that can be tracked. TV, radio, directory, print, outdoor, those offline channels can be tracked as well. And basically it looks like this. On the left-hand side, you have those online and offline marketing channels. We've got Google Ads. We're integrated with Google Ads, so we can pick up when the caller rings up. We can actually pick up what campaigns and paid search words and ad copy resulted in those calls. In the center of the screen, you can see we've got the IVR capture as an option. So, if there is, if your customer has an IVR saying press 1 for sales or 2 for customer service, we're able to pick that up and segment those calls and report on them. You can see up the top there, we can push the results into Google BigQuery, which is a data repository. And sitting on top of Google BigQuery, you could have a Looker Studio dashboard, for example, or you might want to connect Tableau or Power BI. But basically, we're agnostic. The idea with these sort of technologies is to get the data to your customer's preferred reporting platform. On the right-hand side, you can see we push the results into Google Analytics or Adobe. We can also push through to Google Campaign Manager and SA360 for some of those larger digital marketing agencies that have those platforms. And they can then do automated bidding around paid search based on the data that we're sending through as signals. You can see down the bottom of the screen, we can also integrate with the CRM. So we're not just tracking the phone calls and the marketing initiative that drove those phone calls, but what was the final outcome? After the phone call, was there a sale or was there a booking, for example? Was there a qualified lead? And we can combine that data and push that through to marketing platforms as well, which enables you to reduce your cost per lead, but also reduce your cost per acquisition and increase your return on ad spend. And that's really what it's all about. Being able to measure something enables you to improve it, and we're in the business of helping improve cost per lead, cost per acquisition, return on ad spend. So that's call tracking. What you might have noticed that as part of all that, we're recording the phone conversations. So and then when you record the phone conversations, they can be automatically transcribed and then analysed with speech analytics. So that's happening as well. So if I add to this diagram, we're able to do keyword spotting. So we can identify what's of most interest or most concern to someone who's ringing up. And that's really useful. A good example of that is where a digital marketing agency was able to identify that people were ringing up. In this case, it was a tyre company, and people were ringing up interested in getting wheel alignments. And they realised that their marketing really should feature the wheel alignments more. And that was identified using the speech analytics. I've also mentioned the speech analytics can identify the sales leads and segment from other calls and push them through to Google Analytics, for example. But we've also got sentiment analysis, so we can classify a call as being negative or neutral or positive. We can tag calls where there was concern about costs, I mentioned before. We can tag calls where there was a complaint, for example, a consumer's asking to speak to a manager, or various other conversations. We can identify that. We can tag calls where the the caller is referring to a website. So websites can be very important sources of information for consumers. We often see cases where they're ringing up and they'll complain that there wasn't the information they're expecting on the website or it was misleading. We automatically detect those complaints using the combination of identifying if they're referring to the website and their sentiment, whether they're being negative about it. And that gives your customers an opportunity to optimize their website and the information they're showing there. We can also categorize calls in many different ways, bespoke. So if a customer wants to identify the nature of calls, whether the calls concern deliveries of products or bookings or anything else, speech analytics can identify that. It can also look at compliance, whether agents are stating the terms and conditions to a caller. So that's another way of improving customer service and ensuring compliance. And of course, there's also an API, so you can connect to other systems and have that data available in other platforms, whether they're CRMs or MarTech or business intelligence platforms. How it works is pretty straightforward on the surface, but there's a lot of smarts going on in the background, and the AI side of things. So initially, there's the call recording, there's the conversion of the voice to text, keeping the caller and the agent channel separate, so AI can focus on either what the caller's saying or the agent. And then there's text mining in there. We're automatically removing common words like am, is, are, you, me, etc. There's keywords such as, in this case, it was a consultants in the area of fair trading, and it was automatically being able to detect what the caller was ringing about, and being able to segment that. And that was using some predefined words that were weighted, and then the system's automatically able to categorize a call using quite a sophisticated algorithm there, based on various words and phrases. I won't go into too much detail though. I want to just sort of give you a feel for it. This was a car dealer where it was able to segment sales versus finance versus car service, for example, and automatically categorize each calls using speech analytics and those algorithms. The example use cases, it helps sales and service representatives take a customer-centric approach and identify operational issues. It helps to report on the nature of calls through time by marketing channel, by store, for example. I've mentioned, being able to identify sales leads and conversions, being able to identify capacity issues where, for example, speech analysts could identify people who ring up to make a booking, and the booking was discussed, but it wasn't done because there was actually a capacity issue at the store, or where there was a discussion about some product being in stock or not. And speech analytics is able to identify stores that are having those issues. I've mentioned the ability to be able to track compliance, but there's also the ability to combine it with CRM data. So CRM might say whether there's a sales or not. Speech analytics can identify whether there's a sales lead. You can actually combine those together and actually start to predict whether a sales lead will convert. So that's technically possible. And there's many more use cases which I'll be covering. We also provide an online portal and a customizable dashboard. So different users can have data at their fingertips. What's really important is speech analytics lets people filter out thousands of calls and quickly identify the call recordings that are most relevant when it comes to listening to phone calls. So your customers may have many hundreds of phone calls a day. They can't listen to all the recordings, but speech analytics can help them very quickly filter and identify which recordings they should listen to. And then there's also automatic emails that can have snapshots of the analytics that's coming out of speech analysis. So people can go to a dashboard, but they can also automatically receive an email giving them the results and the KPIs that they need to focus on. And I've also mentioned the ability to report in whatever a preferred reporting platform is, and API options. So I've talked about that example before, sales leads, identifying people who are concerned about cost and conversion rates, and helping stores to improve their performance. Here's an example where each one of these dots on this graph is a store for one of our customers. The bottom axis is using speech analytics to identify sales leads where the store was cross-selling. So promoting one product that the caller was interested in, but also promoting another product. So a good example might be an energy provider who provides both energy and internet broadband. Consumer might ring up for energy, but while they're on the call, the agent might want to offer internet services, and speech analytics can pick up wherever that cross-selling is happening. That's on the bottom axis. On the vertical axis, it's tracking, speech analytics is identifying sales leads where the agent actually ran a promotion. So for example, a dealer of tires might have a deal running where the consumer can get a fourth tire for free. And the question is, has the agent actually discuss that deal during the phone call. And when you start to plot those two elements, you can see which store is doing a good job at cross-selling and discussing promotions, and which stores aren't doing so well. And obviously, that's that ability to measure performance gives an opportunity to identify the stores that probably need some help and can actually improve sales. This graph is showing on the bottom axis where consumers were ringing up. They were sales leads. They were discussing a booking, but the booking wasn't done, which indicates a capacity issue. The vertical axis is tracking missed calls, so our system's picking up whether a store is actually answering the phone or not. And again, that's another measure of a capacity issue. So you'd expect that the stores that are in the top right-hand corner are ones that have got capacity issues and should be focused on in terms of improving the operations and helping improve conversions as well. This report is showing every row there is actually a different store. There's about 74,000 phone calls shown on this graph. It's actually highlighting which stores have the most negative conversations and also where there's the most complaints happening as well. So the question is whether the store keeps track of complaints. They wouldn't be measuring sentiment on every phone call, but Speech Analytics is doing that for them. So it very quickly helps build up a picture of which stores could probably do with some help when it comes to training of their staff and dealing with those issues. There's more examples, but I might sort of speed through this a bit. Here we've got an example of a customer who provides outdoor living products like patios, garages, sheds, fencing and roofing, for example. They're using Speech Analytics to identify which of those products the caller's interested in, what they're ringing about, whether they're talking about a quote or it's another type of call, whether they're ringing to do a price check, whether they're checking about stock availability, whether they're talking about installation services. So, are they going to just buy a product or are they also interested in an installation service? Whether the call is a technical call or another type, whether the caller is seeking help, whether the agent couldn't help, whether the call was about a delivery issue, delivering product to their home, or a product issue, like a faulty product, whether the caller is actually making a follow-up call. That's really relevant. Call centers would like to avoid follow-up calls, because they obviously have to service more phone calls. So the question is, why are consumers ringing up? Why do they need to follow up? What could be improved in that case? And Speech Analytics is helping to identify that. And then also being able to segment the types of callers, whether the caller's a retail customer, for example, or whether they're an account customer is a good example. So I guess to sum up, analysing your phone calls can help improve marketing ROI by identifying sales leads versus other calls and pushing through to Google Analytics when combined with call tracking. It can uncover new keywords to digital marketing. I gave the example before of like wheel alignment. It can discover ways to improve your sales pitch. A large franchise network using speech analytics to identify callers referring to their website, for example. I gave that example, and also being able to track whether the agents are talking about promotions and cross-selling. So it's about discovering ways to improve sales pitch. Speech Analytics can also help improve the performance of sales staff. A client used insights from Speech Analytics to discover they can increase sales by having their sales reps push for bookings today. So they're aiming to get a conversion today rather than the caller hanging up and maybe hoping that they'll ring back later. So Speech Analytics gave them a really valuable insight, and consequently they now have all their stores focused on getting the bookings today rather than waiting. And also Afterpay, being able to ensure that their agents are offering Afterpay as an option helps increase their conversions because consumers are more likely to purchase if they can do it on credit. and being able to monitor that performance by store, being able to integrate with the CRM to actually track conversions and revenue in combination. Very, very powerful way of being able to improve the performance of sales staff. And then also obviously train and improve customer service staff. I gave the examples previously. Also being able to track the compliance of those agents, stating terms and conditions, and helping obviously identify operational issues. I've talked about identifying capacity issues. That can be done by day and time or by store. Focusing on staffing or focusing on stock. We've even identified issues with internal phone systems not able to answer calls. So it wasn't a problem with the human beings, but the phone systems at those locations. So very, very powerful things. We've also used speech analytics to identify whether callers have been stuck in a queue where they don't say much. They might be in there for a few minutes and then they hang up. And those abandonments, they're lost business. So again, speech analytics can help identify those sort of situations. Data privacy and security, obviously very important. I've mentioned we've got ISO 27001 certifications. So, those sort of credentials are important when it comes to this technology. That's basically, obviously many sectors can benefit. I've given lots of examples there. Agencies obviously can benefit because it helps optimize marketing ROI. It helps show leads they're generating for their end clients. And it gives them an opportunity to add value for their end clients, and they can add a margin to that because they're providing value. It helps marketing managers optimize their marketing ROI and increase leads, reduce their cost per lead and their cost per acquisition, increase return on their ad spend, and provides advanced reporting with integrations and bidding on paid search, for example. So they can see how they're performing in Google, in Microsoft Ads, in Meta, etc. Other stakeholders benefit, obviously, sales and customer service managers. And then IT can benefit as well. There are potential savings when it comes to those phone calls. Delcon does a very high volume of phone calls and enjoys discounts from the carriers, which we can pass on to our customers. But also for IT, they're concerned about not missing calls. So our call management options can help ensure they don't miss calls. The reporting can help them identify where calls are being missed. And there can also be redundancy there. So, if there is an outage at a particular location, we can automatically reroute phone calls anywhere around the world. So it's good to be able to optimize your marketing and sales, but also make sure the calls aren't being missed in the first place. So I guess summing up, an example is a global supplier of tyres and services, over 100,000 phone calls per month, over 200 stores across Australia, helping them to double their digital leads, their leads from digital marketing, so minimising their CPL and helping increase their conversion rates by 12%, which is quite a significant gain, as well as helping them reduce calls. And now also using speech analytics to identify negative callers referring to their website so they can improve that. A tier one internet provider used speech analytics and call tracking with the Google marketing platform to monitor performance by paid search, campaign and keyword in terms of conversions, automatically detected bookings and deliveries, etc. And they reduced their cost per acquisition by 11%. A global phone manufacturer used speech analytics for a call center. We've generated over 50 actionable insights and over 20 critical recommendations to optimize that call center. It improved their customers' experience, so the actual consumer's experience, but also saved the call center $1.2 million per annum by improving their digital self-service solutions, using speech analytics to give the insights they needed to be able to achieve that. And also just discuss that outdoor retailer. It's giving them their call centers a customer-centric focus to improve their sales and service, and also enabling them to push sales leads through to the Google marketing platform. The call tracking for an insurance provider was able to reduce their cost per acquisition by 14%, and increase their return on ad spend by 16%. A provider of HR, outsourced HR consultancy for over 35,000 businesses was able to reduce their cost per lead by 43%, which is massive. As I mentioned, we've got agencies for hundreds of small to medium enterprises across Asia Pacific, and helping them optimize their digital marketing to succeed is something we've been proud of. I've also mentioned, we've supporting people over in Singapore as well, right through to greater Southeast Asia, Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, etc. So yeah, there's call management. I talked about being able to help avoid calls being missed, being able to have automatic failover if there's an outage at a telephone carrier level or an internal phone system is important, and being able to identify missed calls with the reporting, and also having automatic email alerts if calls are being missed. We're able to send automatic email alerts to head office. So good examples there. A large franchise network was able to substantially increase their revenue by identifying stores with internal phone and staff capacity issues, resulting in missed calls. A provider of emergency roadside assistance was able to help ensure business continuity with disaster recovery solutions. And various government agencies have actually used their system, such as Department of Justice, where their jury management system used our call management integration. So I think that's where we're up to there, Eng. Sorry, I've been doing a lot of talking.
All useful stuff.
Yeah, I think I've shown a fair bit. Just really quickly, this is an example dashboard where you can see on the left-hand side the various sources, like whether it's Google Paid or Google Organic, for example, or Bing, or Microsoft Ads, driving phone calls. There's a column there which says sales intent calls. That's speech analytics saying for each of those channels, where how many sales leads were they generating, which channel's more or less effective, and then being able to look at trends through time is important, and being able to measure performance. So as you adjust your digital marketing campaigns and your ad spend, you adjust your paid search words, you can actually measure the performance in terms of sales leads, thanks to speech analytics. And as I say, those can also be pushed across through to Google Analytics. So you can measure performance in this dashboard, or you can see it in Google Analytics itself. We're able to identify, top keywords residing in calls for the online phone calls. Obviously, there'll be offline phone calls. Consumers might store a phone number in their phone and then ring back later. In that case, we're able to actually keep a record of what they were searching for, in the week prior. So you've got that record, or if it's longer, Google doesn't necessarily retain the data that long, but that's giving some valuable insights to optimize paid search. That's the bottom line there. And being able to identify which campaigns are generating sales leads versus other calls as well. Being able to identify which ad copies generating the most sales lead, being able to identify which landing page and pages called, pages that consumers called from, which pages on the website were more or less effective at generating calls. And then being able to look at those trends through time, using speech analytics to identify sales leads and how they vary through time. And then being able to drill down, so here we've got a row for each phone call. The customer can click on play to listen to a call recording. They can apply some filters so they only listen to the negative calls, or they only listen to calls where the caller is concerned about cost, for example. And then they can use that to listen to the just those phone calls. They can ignore the other 1,000 phone calls, focus on the ones where callers were particularly concerned about cost or negative, and how did their agent perform in being able to close the sale, or give the caller good customer service. Well, thanks again, Eng, and thanks everyone for joining today. I hope you found it interesting.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you, Stan, for coming in today. Yeah. So thank you, Pauline.
Thanks everyone. Have a good afternoon. Good evening.
Have a good evening, Sam.
Cheers. Thank you. See you. Bye.
Okay, bye bye.